In the grim darkness of the far future, where reality and nightmare intertwine, the powers of chaos present perhaps the most terrifying threat to existence itself. Beyond the material realm lies the warp, a dimension of pure energy, raw emotion, and limitless possibility. This otherworldly realm, home to beings of unfathomable power, has long sought to corrupt and transform mortal life into new and horrifying forms. The very concept of hybrid beings, creatures born of both demonic and mortal essence, represents one of the most fascinating and disturbing aspects of chaos influence. Such entities would bridge two fundamentally opposed states of existence, the material and the immaterial. The implications of such unions challenge our understanding of both biology and metaphysics in the Warhammer 40,000 universe. Throughout history, numerous legends speak of beings that were neither fully demon nor fully mortal. These tales span countless worlds and cultures, from primitive feudal planets to advanced civilizations. Some describe warriors of impossible strength and supernatural abilities, while others tell of monsters that defy rational explanation. But separating truth from fiction, actual occurrence from fevered imagination, requires careful examination of both historical records and contemporary evidence. The quest for power through chaos often leads mortals down dark paths of transformation. The ruinous powers offer gifts that blur the line between flesh and warp stuff, between reality and madness. Yet the true nature of these changes, and whether they can result in stable hybrid beings, remains one of the most closely guarded secrets in the galaxy. Understanding this possibility requires delving into the fundamentals of both demonic and mortal nature. Demons are beings of pure energy and emotion, lacking physical form in their natural state. Mortals, conversely, are creatures of matter, bound by the laws of physics and biology. The intersection of these opposing forces creates a paradox that has intrigued scholars, terrified the faithful, and tempted the ambitious throughout millennia. This question touches upon some of the darkest aspects of the Warhammer 40,000 universe: mutation, corruption, and the fundamental nature of reality itself. It challenges our understanding of what it means to be human, demon, or something altogether different. As we explore this forbidden knowledge, we must remember that in seeking such answers, we risk drawing the attention of powers better left undisturbed. The possibility of demon-mortal hybrids represents more than just a theoretical concern. It strikes at the heart of humanity's greatest fears: the loss of self, the corruption of the soul, and the blurring of lines between reality and nightmare. As we delve deeper into this mystery, we must consider not just whether such beings can exist, but what their existence would mean for the future of all mortal life in the galaxy. Let us begin our journey into this dark mystery, examining the evidence piece by piece, and perhaps discover truths that the Imperium would rather keep hidden. But remember, some knowledge comes at a terrible price, and not all questions are meant to be answered. The foundational powers that shape the potential for demon-mortal hybrids begin with the four chaos gods themselves: Khorne, the blood god of war and violence; Nurgle, the lord of decay and pestilence; Tzeentch, the architect of fate and change; and Slaanesh, the prince of excess and sensation. Each possesses unique approaches to corrupting and transforming mortal flesh. The dark gods command vast legions of demons, from the lesser entities that serve as their basic foot soldiers to the greater demons who act as their most powerful servants. These warp entities exist as manifestations of pure emotion and energy, lacking physical form until they find ways to manifest in real space. Their nature as beings of pure warp energy makes any attempt at hybridization with material beings particularly complex. On the mortal side, humanity stands as both the primary target and unwitting collaborator in potential hybridization attempts. The Imperium of Man represents the largest concentration of human life in the galaxy, making it a vast pool of potential subjects for chaos corruption. Within its ranks, various groups show different levels of susceptibility to such transformations. The Dark Mechanicum serves as a crucial faction in understanding these possibilities, as these corrupt tech priests possess both the knowledge of human biology and the heretical wisdom to attempt unnatural fusion between warp and material. Their experiments in combining flesh, machine, and warp energies push the boundaries of what's possible in creating hybrid entities. Chaos Space Marines, having already undergone significant physical and spiritual transformation through their fall to chaos, represent a unique category. Their enhanced bodies and exposure to warp energies make them particularly interesting subjects for potential hybridization, as they already exist in a state between pure humanity and something other. The Thousand Sons Legion merits special attention, as their experience with flesh change and transformation offers valuable insights into how mortal bodies can be altered by warp energies. Their history demonstrates both the potential and dangers of such modifications. Chaos cultists and their various sects represent the most numerous mortal participants in these dark endeavors. Their willingness to undergo transformation and their ready access to demonic entities makes them frequent subjects of hybridization attempts, whether voluntary or not. The Dark Eldar, though not directly aligned with Chaos, possess relevant expertise in biological manipulation and soulcraft that parallels some aspects of demon-mortal hybridization. Their advanced understanding of torture and transformation provides another perspective on the possibilities of combining different forms of life. Rogue Psychers play a crucial role as individuals naturally attuned to warp energies. Their unique connection to the Imperium makes them particularly susceptible to demonic influence and potential hybridization, serving as natural conduits between the material and immaterial realms. The Ordo Malleus of the Inquisition stands as the primary opposition to such experiments, dedicating vast resources to preventing and studying these corruptions. Their records and observations provide much of our understanding of failed hybridization attempts and their consequences. Certain Chaos Sorcerers and Dark Apostles actively pursue the creation of hybrid beings as part of their studies and rituals. These individuals often possess the most direct knowledge of successful and failed attempts at creating such entities. The lost and damned populations of demon worlds represent living laboratories where the boundaries between mortal and demon become increasingly blurred. These unfortunate souls provide evidence of how prolonged exposure to warp energies can transform mortal beings over time. Each faction brings its own motivations and capabilities to this forbidden field of study. While some actively pursue hybridization as a path to power, others seek to prevent it at all costs, creating a complex web of competing interests and hidden knowledge around this dark possibility. The question of demon-mortal hybridization emerged from humanity's earliest encounters with the warp, long before the rise of the Imperium. Ancient texts speak of forbidden experiments conducted in secret laboratories on forgotten worlds, where ambitious scientists and sorcerers sought to harness both technological and supernatural powers to create superior beings. The Age of Strife marked a crucial period when numerous isolated human worlds faced unprecedented warp storms, leading to increased contact with demonic entities. This era saw the first documented attempts at controlled fusion between mortal and demon, though most records were later purged by Imperial authorities. The discovery of the Geller field technology revolutionized human understanding of the relationship between real space and the warp. This breakthrough led some researchers to question whether controlled environments could facilitate stable combinations of material and immaterial essence. These early experiments, while largely unsuccessful, established fundamental theories about the nature of such hybridization. Several Xenos civilizations had already pursued similar paths of research. The Eldar's fall demonstrated the catastrophic consequences of pushing the boundaries between mortal and immortal too far. Their cautionary tale sparked renewed interest in understanding the limits of such transformations. The establishment of the first demon worlds provided unprecedented opportunities to study the long-term effects of warp exposure on mortal populations. These hellish environments served as natural laboratories, showing how sustained contact with the Imperium could gradually alter living beings over generations. The Dark Mechanicum's separation from Mars marked another significant milestone. Their freedom from Imperial restrictions allowed them to pursue radical theories about combining flesh, machine, and warp energies. Their work laid the groundwork for many modern attempts at creating hybrid entities. Archaeological expeditions to dead worlds occasionally uncovered evidence of ancient civilizations that had attempted similar experiments. These discoveries suggested that the desire to merge mortal and demonic essence was not unique to humanity, but represented a recurring pattern across different species and eras. The emergence of stable warp storms and permanent warp rifts created zones where the barriers between real space and the immaterium became permanently weakened. These areas provided unique conditions for studying how living tissue responds to prolonged exposure to warp energies. Various chaos cults throughout history developed ritualistic approaches to transformation, believing that certain ceremonies could prepare mortal vessels for demonic fusion. While most attempts ended in disaster, the accumulated knowledge from these experiments contributed to current understanding of the process. The discovery of certain artifacts and relics suggested that some ancient cultures had achieved partial success in creating stable hybrid entities. These findings prompted renewed interest in the possibility, though many such artifacts were subsequently destroyed by the Inquisition. Detailed analysis of mutation patterns among populations exposed to warp influence revealed consistent changes that hinted at the theoretical possibility of controlled transformation. These studies provided valuable data about how mortal biology responds to immaterial forces. The observation of naturally occurring anomalies where individuals displayed characteristics of both mortal and demonic nature raised intriguing questions about the potential for engineered hybrids. These rare cases became subjects of intense study by both imperial and heretical researchers. The development of more sophisticated methods for containing and studying warp entities allowed for more controlled experimentation. These advances in methodology helped researchers better understand the fundamental challenges and possibilities of combining mortal and demonic essence. The accumulation of this knowledge and experience over millennia led to the current understanding that while demon-mortal hybridization might be theoretically possible, the practical challenges and risks involved make successful implementation extremely difficult and dangerous. The path toward demon-mortal hybridization typically begins with exposure to warp energies through ritual sacrifice or prolonged habitation in warp-tainted environments. Initial changes manifest subtly: heightened sensitivity to the immaterium, strange dreams, and gradual physical alterations that defy natural law. The first major step often involves the creation of specialized breeding programs within chaos cults. These groups systematically expose generations of followers to controlled doses of warp energy, hoping to produce individuals more receptive to demonic fusion. Such programs operate in secret across countless worlds, each developing unique approaches based on their patron deity's preferences. As promising candidates emerge from these programs, more direct attempts at hybridization begin. Sorcerers conduct elaborate rituals designed to prepare mortal vessels for demonic essence, while Dark Mechanicum biologists work to modify flesh at the cellular level. These parallel approaches sometimes yield unexpected results when combined. The actual process of attempting hybridization occurs in stages. First, the chosen mortal must survive direct exposure to raw warp energy without immediate mutation or death. Then, their soul must be gradually altered to accommodate demonic essence, while maintaining some semblance of mortal consciousness. Finally, their physical form must be stabilized in a state between material and immaterial existence. Failed attempts provide valuable data. Each catastrophic transformation or explosive dissolution offers new insights into the limits of mortal flesh and the nature of demonic essence. Successful partial transformations, though unstable, demonstrate the theoretical possibility of achieving true hybridization. The Dark Gods themselves sometimes take interest in these experiments, particularly when they show promise. Their direct intervention can accelerate the process, but often results in unpredictable mutations that deviate from the original goal. Each Chaos God's unique approach to transformation creates different types of hybrid possibilities. Beyond controlled experiments, natural phenomena occasionally produce interesting results. Stable warp storms sometimes create conditions where populations gradually develop traits that suggest partial demonic hybridization over multiple generations. These evolutionary patterns offer clues about potential methods for achieving controlled transformation. The discovery of ancient technological artifacts sometimes provides new avenues for research. Devices designed to manipulate the barrier between real space and the warp can be adapted for hybridization experiments, though their original purpose may have been quite different. Competition between various chaos factions drives innovation in hybridization techniques. Different warbands and cult cells race to achieve stable results, leading to rapid development of new methods, though few are willing to share their discoveries. The involvement of powerful psychers introduces new possibilities. Their natural connection to the warp sometimes allows them to serve as catalysts or stabilizing factors in hybridization attempts. Some become living laboratories, their bodies and souls gradually transforming through controlled exposure to demonic essence. Demon worlds serve as proving grounds where successful hybrids might survive and even thrive. These environments, where reality itself follows different rules, provide unique conditions that can support otherwise impossible combinations of mortal and demonic nature. The spread of chaos corruption through populated systems creates opportunities for large-scale experimentation. Mass exposure to warp influence allows researchers to observe various reactions across diverse populations, identifying promising candidates for more focused hybridization attempts. Each advancement in understanding brings new challenges. The fundamental opposition between mortal reality and demonic essence means that even seemingly successful hybrids may eventually destabilize. This leads to constant refinement of techniques and the development of new methods for maintaining hybrid forms. The accumulated knowledge from countless attempts across millennia gradually builds toward a deeper understanding of what might make true hybridization possible. Each generation of chaos sorcerers and dark scientists adds their own discoveries to this forbidden lore, bringing the theoretical possibility closer to reality. The evidence strongly suggests that chaos can indeed create hybrids between demons and mortal races, though such achievements remain incredibly rare and unstable. This conclusion emerges from detailed analysis of multiple documented cases and theoretical frameworks that support the possibility. The key breakthrough in understanding came from studying the unique properties of possessed individuals who maintained partial consciousness. Unlike typical possessions where the demon completely dominates the host, these rare cases demonstrated a true merger of mortal and demonic essence. The mortal's consciousness remained partially intact while incorporating aspects of the demon's nature, suggesting that true hybridization is possible under specific conditions. Research into these cases revealed that success requires three crucial elements: a mortal vessel with exceptional spiritual resilience, a demon willing to partially merge rather than dominate, and precise environmental conditions that allow stable fusion between material and immaterial essence. When these conditions align, the resulting hybrid exhibits unique characteristics impossible for either purely mortal or purely demonic beings. The discovery of certain ancient artifacts provides physical evidence supporting this conclusion. These relics contain preserved specimens of partially transformed beings that show clear signs of both mortal and demonic characteristics at a cellular level. Advanced analysis reveals these weren't simply mutations or corruptions, but true hybridization of different forms of existence. The most compelling evidence comes from the existence of stable demon worlds, where the laws of reality permanently blend with the impossibilities of the warp. These environments demonstrate that under the right conditions, material and immaterial essence can coexist in stable forms. The native inhabitants of these worlds often displayed traits that could only arise from true hybridization rather than simple corruption. Examining the nature of lesser demons reveals another crucial insight. Unlike greater demons, who maintain distinct personalities and forms, lesser demons demonstrate more flexibility in their essence. This malleability allows them to more readily combine with mortal vessels, creating stable hybrids that retain characteristics of both origins. The existence of successful psychic blanks provides an unexpected theoretical framework supporting hybridization possibility. If mortal beings can naturally exist with a complete absence of warp presence, it logically follows that the opposite extreme, a perfect fusion of mortal and warp essence, should also be possible under the right circumstances. Technical analysis of demonic possession reveals that the process already creates a temporary form of hybridization. The key to permanent hybridization lies in stabilizing this temporary state, something that has been achieved in rare documented cases where the possessed individual reached a stable equilibrium with their demonic occupant. The Dark Mechanicum's experiments with soul-binding technology demonstrate that mortal essence can be permanently altered to accommodate non-mortal elements. These findings suggest that with proper preparation, mortal vessels can be modified to achieve stable fusion with demonic essence. The observation of beings that exist simultaneously in real space and the warp provides another piece of evidence supporting hybridization possibility. These entities demonstrate that the barrier between material and immaterial existence isn't absolute, but rather exists on a spectrum that can be manipulated under specific conditions. The documented cases of stable mutations caused by long-term warp exposure show that mortal biology can adapt to incorporate immaterial elements without immediate destruction. This adaptive capacity suggests that controlled hybridization is possible if the process is properly managed and stabilized. The success of certain chaos sorcerers in achieving partial transformation while maintaining their original consciousness demonstrates that controlled hybridization is achievable. Their ability to exist in a state between mortal and demon while retaining agency proves that true hybrids can maintain stable, independent existence. The accumulated evidence from multiple sources and approaches confirms that while incredibly difficult and rare, demon-mortal hybridization is both theoretically and practically possible within the Warhammer 40,000 universe. This conclusion opens up fascinating possibilities for further exploration of the boundaries between mortal and demonic existence. This understanding represents a significant turning point in our comprehension of the relationship between material and immaterial realms, suggesting that the barrier between mortal and demon may be more permeable than previously believed, though the consequences of this knowledge remain both profound and terrifying. The successful creation of stable demon-mortal hybrids would fundamentally alter the balance of power in the galaxy. These beings would represent an entirely new form of existence, capable of operating effectively in both real space and the warp, making them uniquely dangerous threats to all life. The immediate military implications would be staggering. Hybrid beings could bypass traditional defenses like Geller fields, moving seamlessly between material and immaterial spaces. Their ability to exist naturally in both realms would make them perfect scouts, assassins, and vanguard forces for chaos invasions. The psychological impact on Imperial forces would be devastating. Facing enemies that embody their deepest fears about chaos corruption while retaining mortal intelligence and tactical ability would shatter morale. The mere existence of such beings would challenge fundamental Imperial doctrines about the separation between humanity and the warp. Scientific understanding of reality itself would require revision. The stable existence of hybrid beings would prove that the barriers between real space and the warp are more permeable than previously thought. This knowledge could lead to dangerous new experiments in breaking down these barriers on a larger scale. The creation of hybrids would spark a new arms race among chaos factions, each seeking to perfect their own methods of creating these powerful servants. Different approaches based on the unique aspects of each chaos god would lead to diverse hybrid forms, each with distinct capabilities and weaknesses. Inquisitorial response would likely trigger unprecedented purges across suspected breeding grounds. The threat of hybrid creation would justify extreme measures, leading to the destruction of entire populations deemed at risk of harboring hybrid programs. The ecclesiarchy would face a crisis of doctrine. The existence of beings simultaneously mortal and demonic would challenge fundamental teachings about the nature of chaos and corruption. This could lead to dangerous schisms within the imperial faith. Rogue traders and other voidfarers would encounter new dangers. Hybrid beings could manifest aboard ships without warning, bypassing traditional void warfare tactics and making even short warp jumps extremely hazardous. The development of new weapons and defenses specifically designed to combat hybrid threats would reshape military technology. Traditional anti-demon and anti-mortal weapons would prove insufficient against beings that incorporate aspects of both natures. Intelligence gathering throughout the galaxy would become significantly more complicated. Hybrid beings could infiltrate organizations at levels previously thought secure from demonic influence, while retaining enough mortality to avoid traditional detection methods. The power dynamics within Chaos warbands would shift dramatically. Those capable of creating or controlling hybrid beings would gain significant influence, potentially destabilizing established hierarchies and triggering new conflicts. Planetary defense strategies would require complete overhaul. The ability of hybrids to manifest through subtle weakening of reality rather than requiring full warp rifts would make traditional defensive measures obsolete. The Dark Mechanicum would gain unprecedented influence as their expertise in combining different forms of existence became crucial to creating and controlling hybrid beings. Their understanding of both technological and warp-based transformation would prove essential. Trade routes throughout the galaxy would face disruption as hybrid beings made traditional warp travel safety measures unreliable. This could lead to the isolation of entire sectors and the collapse of established supply lines. The emergence of hybrid beings would also affect xeno-civilizations, forcing even those traditionally resistant to chaos influence to develop new defenses against these unique threats. This could lead to unlikely alliances against the growing hybrid menace. Of all the mysteries surrounding the possibility of hybrids born of demons and mortals, the philosophical implications and moral quandaries they evoke stand among the most provocative and hotly debated topics. While previous sections have examined the physical and metaphysical challenges of such unions, this part delves into the cultural, ethical, and symbolic ramifications of these beings within the Warhammer 40,000 universe. These implications transcend mere biology and venture into the realm of ideology, belief, and existential terror. The very concept of a hybrid being challenges the strict dichotomy between mortal and demon that has defined the Imperium's understanding of chaos for millennia. Imperial doctrine categorically condemns chaos as wholly alien, an insidious force that stands in opposition to everything humanity holds sacred. To suggest that mortals and demons might successfully merge is to invite heresy of the most dangerous kind, a heresy that blurs the moral clarity upon which the Imperium is built. For the ecclesiarchy, this idea represents a direct affront to its teachings. The existence of hybrids would suggest that the immaterial and material realms are not entirely separate, but interconnected in ways previously unimagined. This raises profound theological questions about the Emperor's role in safeguarding humanity from chaos. Could hybrids represent a failure of the Emperor's divine mandate? Or worse, might they be seen by some as evidence of the Emperor's inability to fully shield humanity from the Immaterium's influence? Such notions are enough to inspire purges and inquisitorial campaigns aimed at silencing even the faintest whispers of this possibility. In chaos cults, however, the concept of hybridization is not a source of fear, but of hope and ambition. For these heretical groups, the fusion of mortal and demon represents the ultimate transcendence, a way to achieve a form of existence that defies the limitations of both. To many cultists, hybrids are not abominations, but paragons of their beliefs, embodying the boundless potential promised by chaos. In entire sects have arisen around the pursuit of hybridization, with their rituals and doctrines reflecting the twisted ideals of their patron deities. Some see hybrids as living conduits to their gods, vessels through which the will of the ruinous powers can manifest more directly in real space. From a Xenos perspective, the idea of demon-mortal hybrids provokes its own share of questions and fears. While the Imperium grapples with theological implications, alien species must confront the reality of what such beings mean for the balance of power in the galaxy. Hybrid creatures capable of existing in both the warp and real space could bypass traditional methods of warp navigation, posing a threat not only to the Imperium but to all warp-reliant civilizations. For species like the Eldar, who have long struggled against Chaos's encroachments, the emergence of stable hybrids would be a harbinger of doom, a sign that even their greatest safeguards against the immaterium are not enough. The symbolic resonance of hybrids extends beyond their immediate threat. They embody the most visceral fears of humanity, the loss of individuality, the corruption of the soul, and the violation of natural order. In this sense, hybrids are not just physical entities, but existential challenges. They force those who encounter them to reconsider the nature of reality itself. Are mortals truly separate from the warp, or are they merely extensions of it, shaped by forces beyond their comprehension? Do hybrids reveal hidden truths about the universe, or are they simply grotesque aberrations born of Chaos's malevolence? Among the most debated aspects within fan communities is whether hybrids could ever possess free will. This question strikes at the heart of what it means to be a sentient being. If hybrids inherit traits from both their mortal and demonic origins, does this grant them autonomy, or are they forever bound by the will of their Chaos patrons? Could a hybrid, for example, defy the very powers that created it, or would its existence be so entwined with the warp that resistance is impossible? Such speculation fuels countless debates, with some arguing that hybrids would represent the ultimate loss of agency, while others envision them as potential wild cards in the galactic struggle between order and chaos. The psychological effects of encountering hybrids cannot be understated. For Imperial forces, the mere existence of these beings would shatter deeply ingrained beliefs about the nature of the enemy. Soldiers conditioned to see chaos as an external threat, something other that must be eradicated, would be forced to confront the uncomfortable reality that hybrids share elements of humanity. This cognitive dissonance could lead to widespread morale collapse, as well as increased susceptibility to corruption. After all, if mortals can become hybrids, who is to say that anyone is truly immune to Chaos's touch? In contrast, Chaos-aligned factions would likely view hybrids as powerful symbols of their god's favor. A hybrid born from a specific deity's influence might become a rallying point for cults, inspiring fervent devotion and greater acts of heresy. The hybrid's unique abilities would elevate it to a position of leadership, further destabilizing Imperial efforts to maintain control over Chaos-tainted regions. The existence of hybrids also raises questions about the nature of purity and corruption. Within the Imperium, purity is an ideological cornerstone, a line drawn to distinguish humanity from the horrors of the warp. Hybrids, by their very nature, obliterate this line. They are neither purely mortal nor wholly demonic, existing instead in a liminal state that defies categorization. This ambiguity threatens to undermine the black and white worldview upon which the Imperium relies, opening the door to more nuanced and potentially heretical interpretations of chaos and its relationship to humanity. On a practical level, the study of hybrids could lead to advancements in warp-related technologies and bioengineering. Heretical researchers might seek to harness the unique properties of hybrids to develop new methods of warp navigation, psychic enhancement, or even medical treatments. Such knowledge, while highly dangerous, would undoubtedly attract rogue elements within the Imperium, further complicating efforts to suppress hybridization research. Ultimately, the cultural and symbolic implications of demon-mortal hybrids transcend their physical existence. These beings represent a profound challenge to the established order of the galaxy, forcing all who encounter them to reconsider their beliefs, fears, and assumptions about the nature of reality. Whether seen as abominations, paragons, or existential threats, hybrids stand as a testament to the boundless and terrifying possibilities of chaos's influence. Throughout the history of the galaxy, both mortals and demons have emerged whose unique traits, ambitions, and connections to the imperium make them exceptional candidates for hybridization. These individuals, whether through their raw power, spiritual resilience, or obsessive pursuit of forbidden knowledge, stand out as figures capable of bridging the mortal and demonic realms. This section explores such prominent characters and examines why they might excel in the role of hybrid beings, transcending the boundaries of existence. Among demons, the most fitting candidates are those who demonstrate adaptability, a measure of individuality, and a willingness to compromise their pure immaterial essence. Unlike greater demons, who often embody singular, unyielding aspects of their chaos gods, certain lesser or uniquely ambitious entities have shown the flexibility necessary to fuse with mortal hosts. Such traits would make them ideal participants in experiments aimed at creating stable hybrids. Kairos Fateweaver, the two-headed Lord of Change, serves as a prime example of a demon who could excel in hybridization. As a favored servant of Tzeentch, Kairos possesses unparalleled knowledge of the past, present, and potential futures. His insatiable curiosity and manipulative brilliance make him a strong candidate for merging with a mortal counterpart. By blending his prophetic insights with the physical resilience of a mortal, such a hybrid could become a formidable instrument of chaos, capable of manipulating events on a galactic scale. However, Kairos's obsession with deciphering every outcome could also be a weakness, as his indecisiveness might hinder the hybrid's ability to act decisively in critical moments. Another potential demon is Epidemius, the Tallyman of Nurgle. As a meticulous chronicler of the Lord of Decay's plagues and gifts, Epidemius represents the intellectual aspect of Nurgle's influence. His unrelenting focus on cataloging every disease and affliction makes him an excellent candidate for merging with a mortal scientist or biologist, creating a hybrid whose expertise in pestilence could rival that of the Dark Mechanicum's most brilliant minds. However, the hybrid's physical form would likely suffer from the grotesque and debilitating effects of Nurgle's blessings, limiting its effectiveness in environments outside the warp. For Slaanesh, the Mask of Slaanesh stands out as a particularly suitable demon for hybridization. As a figure of grace and tragedy, the mask embodies Slaanesh's obsession with beauty and performance. A fusion with a mortal artist or charismatic leader could result in a hybrid capable of enthralling entire populations through mesmerizing displays and psychic manipulation. This hybrid's unparalleled ability to inspire devotion and ecstasy would make it a powerful weapon in Slaanesh's arsenal. However, the mask's history of exile from Slaanesh's court raises questions about whether its own ambitions might interfere with its role as part of a hybrid. In the ranks of Khorne, Skulltaker emerges as an intriguing candidate. A demon driven by martial honor and the unrelenting pursuit of worthy opponents, Skulltaker's fusion with a mortal champion could result in a hybrid of unmatched combat prowess. Such a being would be a living weapon, embodying Khorne's wrath and the tactical cunning of a mortal warrior. However, the hybrid's effectiveness would hinge on balancing Khorne's unquenchable thirst for bloodshed with the mortal's need for strategy and restraint. Among mortals, certain individuals possess the traits necessary to withstand the corruption of chaos and merge with a demon without losing their sense of self. These candidates often combine exceptional psychic potential, physical endurance, and an iron will, making them uniquely suited to serve as the mortal half of a hybrid. A prime example is Severus Thrice Cursed, a former imperial governor turned chaos warlord. Severus's rise to power is marked by his ability to manipulate and inspire loyalty among his followers, even as he embraces the gifts of the ruinous powers. His political acumen and charisma, coupled with his growing affinity for the warp, make him an ideal vessel for demon-mortal hybridization. A fusion between Severus and a manipulative demon of Tzeentch could create a hybrid capable of uniting disparate chaos factions under a single cunning leader. However, Severus's ambition might prove a double-edged sword, as his desire for dominance could lead to internal conflict within the hybrid. Another mortal of note is Aurora Black, a rogue psyker whose talents in manipulating the warp are matched only by her ruthless pragmatism. Aurora's willingness to experiment with forbidden knowledge and her ability to channel warp energies with precision make her an exceptional candidate for hybridization. A fusion with a demon of Slaanesh could amplify her psychic abilities to unprecedented levels, creating a hybrid capable of reshaping reality through sheer force of will. Aurora's cold detachment and refusal to succumb to emotional distractions would make her a stabilizing force within the hybrid, though her lack of empathy could alienate potential allies. The enigmatic renegade scientist known only as Magos Ferron provides another intriguing example. Ferron's expertise in bioengineering and warp-based technologies has led to numerous breakthroughs that challenge the boundaries of mortal understanding. His relentless pursuit of perfection and disregard for ethical constraints make him a natural partner for a demon of Nurgle or Tzeentch. A hybrid involving Ferron could combine the demon's immaterial power with Ferron's technological genius, resulting in a being capable of both physical transformation and warp-based innovation. However, Ferron's obsession with his work might render the hybrid unpredictable, as his goals could diverge from those of his demonic counterpart. In the shadowy underworld of chaos cults, leaders like Vanara Voidtongue stand out as ideal candidates for hybridization. A masterful orator and skilled ritualist, Vanara's ability to sway the masses and her deep connection to the warp make her a prime target for demonic attention. A hybrid formed between Vanara and a demon of Slaanesh or Tzeentch could wield both overwhelming psychic power and an unparalleled ability to manipulate mortal minds. However, Vanara's reliance on deception and half-truths could sow mistrust among her allies, potentially undermining the hybrid's influence. Lastly, there is the tragic figure of Drennan Rin, a once loyal Imperial knight driven to chaos by the horrors of war. Rin's unshakable sense of honor and his deep-seated guilt over his fall make him a compelling candidate for hybridization with a demon of Khorne. A hybrid combining Rin's martial prowess and demonic fury would be an unstoppable force on the battlefield, embodying both mortal resilience and demonic ferocity. However, Rin's inner turmoil and lingering loyalty to his former comrades could create a dangerous instability within the hybrid, as his conflicting loyalties threaten to tear it apart. These individuals, whether mortal or demonic, represent the finest candidates for hybridization within the galaxy. Their unique qualities, ambitions, and flaws make them fascinating examples of what might arise from the fusion of mortal and immaterial essence. Each hybrid would be a singular entity, defined not only by its origin, but also by the interplay of its mortal and demonic halves, creating a new and terrifying force within the Warhammer 40,000 universe. The question of whether chaos can create hybrids between demons and mortals is shrouded in mystery, and numerous unresolved questions and theories surround the topic. These debates range from metaphysical speculation to practical challenges, offering fertile ground for discussion among Warhammer 40,000 fans and scholars. This section will explore the most intriguing and contentious aspects of the hybridization debate, focusing on unresolved issues and theories that push the boundaries of imagination. One of the most debated questions is whether a demon-mortal hybrid could retain free will. Demons are intrinsically tied to the will of their chaos gods, embodying specific aspects of their deity's nature. When merged with a mortal, does the mortal's consciousness become entirely subjugated, or could a hybrid maintain some semblance of independence? If hybrids can act autonomously, would they ultimately serve chaos's interests, or could they become rogue entities with agendas that defy both mortal and demonic expectations? The possibility of a hybrid rebelling against its creators is a tantalizing concept, raising concerns about the stability and reliability of such creations. Another unresolved issue lies in the question of permanence. Even if a hybrid were successfully created, could it remain stable over time? The warp and real space operate on fundamentally different principles, and blending the two in a single entity might result in an inherently unstable fusion. Some theorize that hybrids would gradually deteriorate, either dissolving into warp energy or succumbing to catastrophic mutation. Others suggest that certain conditions, such as a permanent warp rift or sustained psychic support, might be necessary to maintain their stability. This raises further questions about the resources and environments required to sustain such beings. A particularly controversial theory involves the role of the soul in hybridization. In the Warhammer 40,000 universe, the soul is a metaphysical link between a mortal and the imperium. Demons, lacking physical bodies, are pure warp energy shaped by the will of their patron deities. For a hybrid to exist, some theorists argue that the mortal soul must be fundamentally altered to accommodate demonic essence. This poses several questions. Can a mortal soul be split or fused with a demon's essence without being destroyed? If so, what happens to the mortal's identity, and how does this impact their ability to resist corruption? The implications for humanity's spiritual resilience are profound and unsettling. The question of genetic inheritance also sparks considerable debate. If hybrids were to reproduce, would their offspring inherit traits from both mortal and demonic lineages? The possibility of such a bloodline existing in the galaxy would fundamentally alter the balance of power, creating a new faction that could challenge both the Imperium and Chaos. Some theorists posit that any such offspring would likely be sterile, much like many Xenos hybrids, while others argue that genetic inheritance might bypass physical reproduction altogether, manifesting through psychic or warp-based means. This theory ties into broader discussions about the nature of life and evolution within a universe shaped by both science and sorcery. The limits of demonic consent also remain unclear. In most cases, demons dominate their mortal hosts through possession, erasing the host's will entirely. For true hybridization to occur, some degree of cooperation might be required between demon and mortal. This raises intriguing questions about the motivations of demons. Would they willingly sacrifice their autonomy or essence to merge with a mortal, or would such a union be imposed upon them by the will of their patron deity? If the latter, what mechanisms could ensure the demon's compliance, and how might this affect the hybrid's functionality? Another area of speculation involves the potential for hybridization outside human biology. Humanity's susceptibility to chaos is well documented, but what about other species? The eldar, with their heightened psychic sensitivity, might theoretically serve as ideal vessels for hybridization, though their resistance to corruption complicates this notion. Similarly, the orcs' inherent connection to the warp through their gestalt psychic field might create unique challenges or opportunities for hybrid creation. Even the Necrons, despite their soulless nature, raise questions about whether their advanced technology could artificially simulate hybridization with warp entities. Each of these possibilities offers a different perspective on how hybridization might unfold across the galaxy. The role of time within the warp is another unresolved issue. Time flows differently in the immaterium, often with little correlation to real space. This discrepancy could have significant implications for hybrids. Would their mortal components age normally, or could the warp distort their lifespan, potentially granting immortality or accelerating decay? Furthermore, if hybrids exist in both realms simultaneously, how would they perceive and interact with time? This aspect of their existence remains deeply enigmatic, adding another layer of complexity to their theoretical creation. The possibility of artificially engineered hybrids also sparks intense discussion. The Dark Mechanicum and certain renegade factions have long experimented with blending technology, biology, and warp energies. Could a hybrid be created through purely scientific means, bypassing the need for demonic cooperation? If so, what would distinguish such a being from a naturally formed hybrid? Would it still possess the same connection to the warp, or would it represent an entirely new category of existence? The ethical and practical implications of this approach are vast, especially given the Imperium's rigid stance against heretical technology. Finally, the question of purpose looms large. If hybrids were to exist, what role would they play in the grand schemes of chaos? Would they serve as soldiers, leaders, or living symbols of their patron god's power? Alternatively, could they act as experimental prototypes, paving the way for more advanced forms of demonic influence in real space? The specific functions and limitations of hybrids remain an open question, one that fuels endless speculation among fans and scholars alike. The unresolved questions and theories surrounding demon-mortal hybrids reveal the profound and often terrifying implications of their potential existence. Each theory, no matter how speculative, challenges our understanding of the Warhammer 40,000 universe, offering new avenues for exploration while underscoring the sheer complexity of Chaos's influence. Whether hybrids remain a theoretical concept or become a tangible reality, their impact on the galaxy and the lives of its inhabitants cannot be overstated. The long-term consequences of successfully creating hybrids between demons and mortals could fundamentally alter the balance of power and the very fabric of existence in the Warhammer 40,000 universe. The introduction of such beings would ripple across every aspect of the galaxy, from political structures to religious doctrines, from technological developments to the survival of species. The impact would be profound, complex, and likely devastating. The immediate reaction from the Imperium of man would be one of panic and repression. The existence of hybrids challenges the Imperium's core beliefs about chaos, the sanctity of humanity, and the separation between real space and the warp. The ecclesiarchy, already rigid in its dogma, would likely double down on its teachings, branding hybrids as the ultimate abomination. This would lead to widespread purges, as the Inquisition and Adeptus Arbites worked to eliminate even the faintest trace of hybridization. Entire planets could be subjected to exterminatus if hybrid activity is suspected, plunging billions into death to preserve the Imperium's purity. Despite these efforts, the psychological impact on humanity would be significant. Hybrids would embody the Imperium's deepest fears, the vulnerability of the human soul, and the omnipresence of chaos. Soldiers facing hybrids on the battlefield would encounter enemies who blur the lines between mortal and demon, sowing doubt and despair. Propaganda efforts to deny or downplay their existence might falter in the face of undeniable evidence, eroding trust in imperial authorities. Over time, this could weaken the Imperium's cohesion, leaving it more vulnerable to external threats. For Chaos, hybrids would represent a new weapon of unprecedented versatility. Unlike traditional demons who are bound to the warp, hybrids could operate freely in real space without requiring rituals or unstable portals to manifest. This would allow Chaos warbands to deploy them as vanguard forces, infiltrators, or even long-term agents embedded within enemy territories. The ability of hybrids to exist in both realms would make them invaluable for sabotaging Imperial infrastructure, manipulating warp travel, or spreading corruption across entire sectors. The introduction of hybrids could also shift the internal dynamics within Chaos itself. The ruinous powers, ever competitive, would likely use hybrids as a measure of their influence, pushing for increasingly ambitious creations to outdo their rivals. This arms race among the gods could result in even more bizarre and dangerous hybrids, as Tzeentch seeks perfect manipulators, Khorne demands unstoppable warriors, Nurgle engineers plague bringers, and Slaanesh creates beings of unparalleled allure and temptation. These escalating efforts could lead to greater instability within Chaos warbands, as hybrids become both coveted assets and sources of internal conflict. Other factions in the galaxy would not remain passive in the face of such a development. The Eldar, whose history is intimately tied to the consequences of unchecked warp manipulation, would view hybrids as an existential threat. Their Farseers would likely dedicate themselves to predicting and countering hybrid activity, deploying strike forces to eliminate them before they can proliferate. For the Drukhari, hybrids might represent an opportunity as much as a danger. Always seeking to push the limits of pain and transformation, they might attempt to capture hybrids for their own grotesque experiments, hoping to unlock new methods of inflicting suffering. For the Orcs, hybrids would likely be seen as another challenge to test their might. Orcs thrive on conflict, and hybrids would provide a unique enemy capable of blending warp-fueled power with physical resilience. Over time, prolonged exposure to hybrids might even lead to adaptive changes within Orc populations as their latent connection to the warp reacts to this new threat. The Necrons, on the other hand, would see hybrids as a blight upon the galaxy. With their disdain for the warp and all its manifestations, Necron dynasties might escalate their campaigns to cleanse sectors infested with hybrid activity. This could result in unprecedented alliances between Necron lords and other anti-chaos factions, however temporary or uneasy, in the face of a mutual existential threat. For humanity, the existence of hybrids could open dangerous doors. Rogue factions within the Imperium, from heretical cults to ambitious rogue traders, might attempt to harness hybrids for their own gain. The promise of power and influence through such alliances would be tempting, even as it risks widespread corruption. Entire worlds could fall under the sway of hybrid leaders, creating quasi-imperial domains where chaos influence is hidden beneath a veneer of loyalty to Terra. From a technological standpoint, hybrids could drive both innovation and destruction. The Dark Mechanicum would see them as proof of the potential to blend biology, warp energies, and machinery in ways previously unimagined. This could lead to the development of entirely new forms of demon engines or biomechanical horrors. Conversely, the Adeptus Mechanicus might accelerate its own forbidden experiments to counter the hybrid threat, delving deeper into archaeotech and xenotech at the risk of violating their own strictures. The warp itself could be affected by the proliferation of hybrids. As beings that exist on the boundary between real space and the immaterium, hybrids might destabilize this barrier further, making warp storms more frequent and unpredictable. This could exacerbate the already chaotic nature of warp travel, isolating sectors of the galaxy and disrupting trade and communication. Entire regions could become permanently cut off, transforming into hybrid-dominated realms where the rules of reality are rewritten by the presence of these entities. In the long term, the existence of hybrids might lead to new philosophical movements within the galaxy. Some might view hybrids as a natural evolution, a blending of the material and immaterial that reflects the universe's true nature. Others would see them as a dire warning, proof of chaos's ability to infiltrate and corrupt even the most sacred aspects of mortal existence. These conflicting interpretations could spark new conflicts as ideologies clash over how to interpret and respond to the hybrid phenomenon. Ultimately, hybrids would force every faction in the galaxy to adapt, whether through military innovation, ideological shifts, or desperate alliances. Their existence would upend established norms and destabilize the already fragile balance of power. While chaos might initially benefit the most, the unpredictable nature of hybrids means that even the ruinous powers could lose control of their creations, leading to unintended consequences. Whether hybrids represent the next stage of evolution, a harbinger of doom, or a fleeting anomaly, their impact on the galaxy would be profound. They would challenge the very foundations of reality and belief, leaving no corner of the Warhammer 40,000 universe untouched by their presence.